Welcome to Brandman University. I'm your professor, Nick Layton, and before we start, I thought I'd give you a quick introduction to who I am and why I'll be teaching you for the next few weeks. Let's start at the beginning. I was born on a small Greek island. In fact, if any of you have seen the movie Mamma Mia, it was just like that. When I was born, my mother and father had been married 7 times each, but not to each other. I was on a small island, and when I was 4 days old, I had to have an operation. Unfortunately, being in Greece, they didn't have very much anesthetic for children, so they got me drunk on brandy. When I was 2 years old, I moved back to England with my family, and when I was 11, I went to boarding school in England. If anyone's seen the movie Harry Potter, it was just like that. When I was 15, I started my first business. That was while I was at boarding school. It wasn't very ethical, but it was legal. By the age of 20, I knew I wanted to study abroad. I really wanted to go to Moscow or somewhere in Russia and experience life over there. Then a friend of mine turned up on my doorstep one day and said, "Let's go study abroad." And I'm like, "What a great idea, let's go." And he goes, "Well, I really want to go to America." I'm like, "The US? Are you crazy? Russia's where it's all happening." He said, "Well, you know what, I've already filled in the application for you and I've already handed it in for you." About 5 days later, I got chosen to study in University of North Carolina in Wilmington. Unfortunately, my friend wasn't chosen, so that was the end of our relationship. At the age of 22, I was back in the UK and I did a full-time MBA course. And after that, I was hired as a VP of development for a recycling company. Business development, a lot of sales involved, and a lot of marketing. About a year into that, the owner of that company saw potential in me, so he gave me all of $3,000 and said, "Please go and start up your own company on our behalf. But here's the deal, $3,000, you can't buy anything extra, you have to use existing tools and processes that we have, you have to market to the same customer base, and whatever you do, it has to be green and environmental." So that's my first LLC, if you like, first limited company that I had. About 2 years later, I'd moved on. I was working for a large American technology company looking after their marketing. I was their marketing manager and then later marketing director for Eastern Europe and the Middle East. When I started that job, I was based in Paris. Then I lived in the Czech Republic, and every week I would travel between 32 different countries. And eventually, at the end of my 3-year stint, I was moved down to the Middle East. But before I got moved to the Middle East, one evening I found myself on the cobblestones of Prague, and then realizing that I didn't have a ticket for the metro system that I was on, I started to get chased. At the end of the evening, there were 7 armed policemen chasing me because I hadn't paid the fine or the ticket to travel on the metro system. That ticket cost about 10 cents at the time. Needless to say, it was time to move on. So at that point, about 10 years ago, I started my own PR agency in the Middle East, based in Dubai. A few years later, after the company had grown and gained some respectability, I happened to be at a business function in Los Angeles. And they had an event in the evening at Hugh Hefner's Playboy Mansion where I met my now wife. Fast forward 3 years later, and I was pretty much spending 3 weeks in California with my wife, and I started up a second business, also called Net Results, that's based in Irvine, which is a PR agency as well. So I have my PR agency in the Middle East, based in Dubai, with 3 offices at this stage, and then also my office in California. At that stage, me and my wife started up a management consultancy company that also exists today, which has grown to some extent. A year and a half ago, I started teaching at Chapman University. Last year, I had a book published on crisis communication. I was a co-author on that. And I spend my time now traveling between California and the Middle East, and the offices between those 2 areas, and also go all over the world pitching for new business, meeting people, finding new partners. So that's what I'm about. And hopefully later on this week you'll be able to tell us your story. I hope you're going to enjoy the course. I hope it's going to be practical and real for you. The courses that I teach tend not to be very theoretical, so we'll try and move away from that as much as possible. And above all, I hope you enjoy it. Happy studying.